Right around this time last year, WWE announced that WrestleMania 43 next year would be taking place in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in Riyadh. However, recent developments have surfaced regarding the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia and the Middle East alone, and it's gotten to a point where WWE may end up reconsidering. Now obviously if you guys keep up with social media like I do, then you guys all already know what's going on overseas in the Middle East with, well, you guys know exactly what I am talking about. So apparently WWE is now considering moving WrestleMania 43 next year back to the United States and moving it to potentially New Orleans, Louisiana, inside the Caesars Superdome, originally known as the Mercedes-Benz Superdome, which I don't know why they changed it. But the question is how? Like, the question is, like, why? What's going on in the Middle East? Why are they making this sudden change? Well, it actually has a lot to do with the wars that's been going on in the Middle East, to the extent where where excuse me, sorry about that, guys. To the point where apparently the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has not will could potentially become a war zone, and it could potentially get to a point where WrestleMania 43 may not take place at all next year, which I can totally see it. I can totally see it, and apparently there have been multiple reports swirling all over social media that WWE is planning to make this change as soon as tomorrow during WrestleMania Saturday on the Countdown show. And if these changes are true, what does that say about the card for next year? What what matches could we expect to see take place at WrestleMania next year? Well, I can honestly say that it will not be AJ Styles or John Cena competing at WrestleMania next year, because last year was their last WrestleMania ever. Potentially, we could see John Cena make his way into the Hall of Fame next year if it takes place in New Orleans, Louisiana. However, WWE President Nick Khan has told fans all over social media to stay tuned to WWE's content for all the latest info. And honestly, I think it's an interesting idea that WWE had decided to wait till now to potentially announce the fallback, if you will, of WrestleMania being in Saudi Arabia, because this would have been obviously, yes, this would have been a historic weekend for WWE, where WrestleMania would be taking place outside of the United States for the first time in 20 years. But to be fair, when you look at excuse me, when you look at the last time that WrestleMania took place outside of the United States, it was in Toronto, Canada. Excuse me. Back in 2002, over 20 years ago, and that was when we saw Triple H defeat Chris Jericho. Excuse me. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to clear my throat up. Anyway, WrestleMania 18 was where we saw Triple H defeat Chris Jericho to become the undisputed champion, and we even also saw a match that we never thought imaginable: Hulk Hogan, God rest his soul, versus The Rock. And as Jim Ross said it was a match for the ages, and it definitely was. But that was a historic moment, right? Because that was at that point that was the first time since WrestleMania 6 that WrestleMania took place outside of the United States. WrestleMania 6 was obviously the first time, and it was in the same building, the Toronto Sky Dome in Toronto, Canada, now known as the Rogers Center. And I find it I find it a little interesting. I know I've said that a few times already in this video, but I find it interesting that it's going to be in Riyadh because, or rather, it would be in Riyadh because when you look at WrestleMania, it's WrestleMania in Riyadh. I feel like it's a bit unorthodox, but at the same time, excuse me, at the same time, it's cool. It'll be cool to see the fans of Riyadh getting their moment in the spotlight, but because of what's going on in the Middle East, WWE now has to find a new spot for WrestleMania 43 that will not, which it, again, it won't, because that it could potentially not make its way to Riyadh. They need to find another location. Excuse me. And apparently it is all eyes on New Orleans, Louisiana, because originally this year's WrestleMania was supposed to have taken place in New Orleans, but I think it would make sense for WrestleMania to take place in New Orleans next year. However, WWE still has yet to make any decisions on that forefront, and it's as I said, right? Like, we could potentially see, or rather, we could potentially find out about WrestleMania next year as soon as tomorrow, or potentially the Raw after WrestleMania, maybe even the SmackDown after WrestleMania. Maybe we might even maybe we might find out within the next couple months. No one really knows for sure, but what I can tell you is that the card that we could potentially see for next year, it's going to be very, what's the proper word for it? It'll be unique, I will say, because when you look at WrestleMania 30, which was in New Orleans, the card was pretty stacked. I mean, you had John Cena versus Bray Wyatt. You had Daniel Bryan versus Triple H. You had what else? You had the Divas Battle Royal for the WWE Divas Championship. You had Brock Lesnar versus the Undertaker, which was the moment that shocked the entire world. And even that was crazy. Just that alone was crazy. And then of course WrestleMania 34 was just as historic. Charlotte Flair versus Asuka, John Cena versus The Undertaker, Brock Lesnar versus Roman Reigns, AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, a dream match that nobody thought possible. And now we fast forward to this time of the year, and again, WWE still has yet to make any rash decisions on what to do with WrestleMania 43 next year. And honestly, I think it would be better suited for it to take place in New Orleans, because again, it was supposed to have happened in New Orleans this year, but it's not. And I get why. It's because of the fact that WWE has had such a strong, healthy relationship, if you will, with the kingdom of Saudi Arabia over the course of the last damn near decade now, with all the PLEs that takes place in Saudi Arabia, whether it was the greatest Royal Rumble, whether it was like a Crown Jewel PLE, Super Showdown, whether it was uh, Night of Champions, whether it was the Royal Rumble this past January, whether it was the Elimination Chamber back in 2022, I think it was. Yeah, back in 2022. So many historic moments took place in the kingdom of Saudi Arabia, but but it's as I said, right? Like with everything that's been going on in the Middle East, there's no point in WWE hosting a PLE in Saudi Arabia this year or even next year alone. But obviously things can change at any given time. But we will have to wait and see. I will say though, I will say though, no matter where it takes place next year, whether it remains in Saudi Arabia, whether it comes back to the United States, or whether it goes to Canada or wherever, I can honestly say that WrestleMania 43 is going to be just as historic as this year's is going to be, because this year's WrestleMania, it is hella stacked. I mean, tomorrow night's main event is going to be Cody Rhodes versus Randy Orton for the WWE title, and then Sunday is CM Punk versus Roman Reigns for the World Heavyweight title. That right there is going to be a very historic weekend this weekend, and I got a feeling that WrestleMania this year could very may well alter what the card could look like for WrestleMania next year. But I do want to get your guys' thoughts on this whole ordeal. Let me know down in the comments below your thoughts on the idea of WrestleMania 43 coming back to the United States, and what city you believe WrestleMania 43 should take place in. Let me know down in the comments below, and that'll do it for today's video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, make sure you guys smash that thumbs up button. If you guys are new to the channel and you guys want more WWE topic videos in the future, then be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, and as always, make sure you guys are following me on all of my social media. All of my ads will be in the description below, as will the info to my fan mail. It will also be in the description as well. And on that, this is your boy Nash, signing out.